chief of the Omaticaya Clan Jake, still resides on Pandora more than 10 years after the first human invasion, peacefully coexisting with his wife Neytiri and their children. Tuck, Neteyam, and Loak are their biological siblings. However, they have also adopted two. There's Spider, a little human boy, and Kiri, an offspring of Grace's unconscious avatar. During the invasion, a Spider had been born on the human military outpost, and he couldn't have been sent back to Earth with the others since cryostasis hadn't been an option for a newborn. Spider sees himself as more Gnostics than human because he was raised by Jake and his family, but Neytiri is still wary of him since he is the progeny of an adversary. The family is horrified to see humans returning to their planet and destroying everything in their way as if they hadn't learned their lesson one evening as they gaze up to the sky. 1 year later, the army is converting the thoughts of its warriors into freshly formed avatar bodies on one of the several human spacecraft circling the planet. One of them doesn't react well to being awakened until he is told what is happening. This individual is Colonel Quaritch, who perished in the initial invasion. The purpose of New Quaritch is to get revenge on Jake for copying his memories into the technology that allowed him to be cloned after his death, according to a cassette he left behind. Defeated them previously. To prevent the humans from moving on with their objectives, Jake and the warriors of his tribe have launched a guerrilla effort, primarily by striking their supply lines. The majority of them ride on mountain banshees and use conventional weaponry, but as Jake was once a human, he still enjoys carrying firearms for his own protection and has modified human communicators for use with his family. Loak becomes too arrogant and disobeys Neteyam after another extremely successful assault against the humans, going into battle to aid his father in order to prove himself. When Neteyam pursues him, a human ship responds by engaging in combat, putting both children in danger. Neteyam is injured despite Loak's quick action to get out of the path. As a result, Jake must pull him from a pile of wreckage. Jake chastises his boys for their misbehavior and grounds them when they get home. Neytiri attempts to tell her husband that they are still children and not to be so harsh with them, but Jake has to be severe with them since he fears losing them. Later, the siblings see Max, one of the few scientists from the human race who defected from the military and joined the Pandora defensive force. Grace's unconscious corpse is kept by him and his friends in a tiny lab, and Kiri enjoys visiting her there and watching her videos from when she was still in a human form. The fact that Kiri doesn't know who her father is gets her in trouble with her siblings, but Spider believes it could be for the best because he detests the notion that he is the offspring of an enemy. Meanwhile, Quaritch and his crew of avatars arrive at the brand new human settlement in Pandora and discover that, as a result of recent technological advancements, humans are colonizing the area 3 times as quickly as they were a decade earlier. When the squad is adequately armed, they head out to investigate the forest. There, they come upon machine pieces left behind from the last invasion. Quaritch is startled to see remnants of his former body. All of Jake's children, save Neteyam, are in the area enjoying fun at the same moment, but as soon as they spot the enemy approaching, they run to cover behind some plants. As soon as the siblings attempt to go, they are immediately stopped by their siblings when Loak informs his father over the communicator that they should leave silently. Quaritch and his squad ambush the victim. The fact that these children have half-breed fingers easily identifies them as Jake's children, but Quaritch is most surprised to see Spider, who turns out to be Quaritch's son. This provides Jake and Neytiri the chance to approach Quaritch and his men in the darkness after asking Neteyam not to intervene because they now have to wait to be picked up. Before she and Jake start killing troops in the shadows, Neytiri makes an animal-like noise to let the kids know she's there. As soon as they hear her, the youngsters know to bite their captors and flee. Neteyam chooses to join the battle in time to save his mother when Quaritch recognizes Neytiri's arrows and teases her to learn where she is. A human spacecraft appeared at that time. Arrives to collect Quaritch's crew, so Neytiri focuses on reconnecting with her kids and doesn't even consider looking for Spider. As a result, when Quaritch flees, he may take the kid with him. Spider is placed on a questioning device in the human base, but he bears the discomfort and remains silent. Instead, Quaritch attempts the kind way, telling the child that while he may have Quaritch's memories, he is a different person who would want to connect with his son. This successfully persuades Spider that he might not be all evil after all. Jake tells Neytiri they should go when the family gets home. Neytiri is adamant about staying with her people. However, Jake says that Quaritch wants them in particular, so the clan will be safer without them. The clan performs the customary ceremony to transfer the chief mantle after Jake selects a successor, and the family is then free to depart toward the Neteyam shore. The native tribes can survive longer underwater without breathing since they have adapted to the aquatic environment. As a result of their human blood and the potential for the war to follow them, Chief Tonawari and his wife Ronald are suspicious of the family when they first arrive. However, Jake swears they weren't followed, and as custom dictates that anybody in need should be given shelter, the family is allowed to stay. Tonawari asks his children to serve as tour guides, and while his daughter Rhea is happy to show them around, his son Ongnung is unwilling to interact with them. After that, Jake's family puts a lot of effort into adjusting to the Ilu, which are aquatic organisms, and ways to educate their bodies to remain underwater for extended periods of time. Reef life. They have to try a few times before they get it perfect, but to everyone's astonishment, Kiri doesn't need to learn any special techniques since she can naturally remain underwater for as long as she likes, and she immediately forges relationships with all the marine life. While this is going on, Quaritch's squad starts using Spider as their designated interpreter on exploration trips. Spider also leads the group to a nest of ikrans, ferocious birds that are impossible for most people to tame. Nevertheless, Quaritch gives it a shot, engaging the beast in the battle to demonstrate his skill, accidentally sending them both plunging down the cliff. The group is prepared to head back to base since they believe Quaritch is dead, but just then, Quaritch makes a triumphal entrance on the tamed ikran. Back on the reef, Kiri keeps developing a connection with the water, which leads Aonung and his pals to mock her for being a lunatic. Neteyam soon follows Loak after he defends her in an attempt to maintain calm, but Loak is overconfident and initiates a fight nonetheless, leaving Neteyam with little alternative but to intervene. When the grown-ups eventually arrive to separate them, Jake chastises his boys for their misbehavior. They had to put up with the continual taunting because they are guests here and cannot afford to be expelled, which frustrates him as well. Kiri is concerned that she is different even physiologically, as seen by the area of her face that she conceals behind her hair, and Neytiri attempts to console her. Following that, Loak does what his father instructs and makes amends to Aonung and his companions for the altercation. After accepting the apologies, Aonung brings Loak to an isolated location where he would be taught how to fish underwater. However, while Loak is focused on his prayer, Aonung and his buddies leave since this whole thing was only a joke. Now that Loak is stuck, he must find out how to go back, but his plans are abruptly derailed when he is struck by a massive marine predator. Loak dives beneath the sea as soon as he can to swim away and hide behind the coral, but he soon runs out of oxygen and must surface. As soon as it spots him, the predator chases after him, but just as Loak is about to faint, a larger whale-like monster known as a tulkun appears and kills the predator. After being saved from drowning by the tulkun, Loak awakens a little while later on top of him. In appreciation for the assistance, Loak removes a harpoon that human whalers had placed in the tulkun's fin. The tulkun then directs Loak toward the settlement, but it vanishes before it can be spotted. When Tonawari tries to apologize to his son after Loak has rejoined his family, Loak lies and claims it was all his idea. Jake reprimands him for this and names him the family should be ashamed. Later, when Aonung questions why Loak lied to him, Loak responds that he knows the reason. How painful it is to let your father down. The people learn that Loak encountered Payakan, a tulkun who went rogue, when he recounts his trip the next day. Everyone believes it to be a murderous object, and they refuse to believe Loak when he claims Payakan is truly kind. A little while later, Loak searches for Payakan and inquires as to why it was declared an outcast by its own family, but Payakan won't answer. Rhea leads Kiri to their clan's tree of souls so that Kiri can link her thoughts to it and meet Grace's soul as they swim together as friends. Kiri asks Grace why she's different and who her father is after receiving a hearty embrace, but before Grace can respond, Kiri abruptly experiences a seizure, breaking the connection. Her siblings take her back to the village, and Jake phones Max to send his team to check on her. However, it is Ronald who uses a traditional healing technique to help her regain consciousness. Jake is informed by Max and his doctor acquaintance that Kiri had an epileptic seizure and shouldn't ever connect to the tree again. Since Max reached Jake on his own ship, the human base was able to receive the transmission. They lost it as the ship sailed farther into the ocean, and they will require a local who is familiar with the region and who can guide them through the hundreds of islands to find it again. When a whaler ship refuses to cooperate with Quaritch's crew during negotiations, Quaritch threatens the whalers with death in order to coerce them into cooperating. When a pod of tulkuns arrives at Tonawari's hamlet for one of their yearly visits, Quaritch and his soldiers arrive and kidnap the inhabitants to get information on Jake. When the questioning goes violent and the youngster has to stop his father from killing everyone simply because they don't know anything, Spider finally gets to understand how merciless Quaritch is. Sadly, Quaritch still tells his soldiers to set all the houses on fire. Tonawari quickly learns of Quaritch's arrival on the islands and informs Jake that he is indeed being pursued. Neytiri wants to pursue Quaritch to put an end to the situation once and for all, but Jake advises her to wait and formulate a good strategy. Loak visits Payakan in the meantime, while his buddies wait in the shadows to check whether he is speaking the truth. When the creature opens its mouth, Loak swims inside to connect with Payakan's mind because he wants to discover why he is an outcast. As a result, he is able to understand the entire narrative. It seems that Payakan's mother was assaulted by whalers, and while Payakan battled to rescue her, his pod nonetheless expelled him since they believed that violence was contrary to their nature as a peaceful species. Tonawari and Ronald severely chastise the youngsters when they get back to the village for violating the Tulkun people's way of life. In the end, Loak is the only one who has Rhea's backing and her expression of pride in him. Later, Quaritch understands that using violence won't change the villagers' behavior. Knowing that murdering the animals that the people perceive to be their brothers will cause Jake to emerge from hiding, he offers to assist the whalers in their quest for the Tulkuns. Spider is forced to watch with dismay as the whalers send up ships to slaughter the Tulkuns with sophisticated weaponry that can detect their sounds. To make matters worse, they exclusively hunt tulkuns for the purpose of removing their brain enzymes, which are then squandered and used in anti-aging treatments. When the locals discover the dead that the whalers have thrown back into the water, they quickly accuse Jake and his family of being responsible. They want to go outside and fight back, but Jake shows them the tracker he discovered on a tulkun fin and explains that it's a trap, so they should stay inside and just order the tulkun to swim away for protection for the time being. Because Payakan is an outcast, nobody would warn him, so Loake decides to do it on his own, disobeying his brother's advice. When Neteyam follows Loake with his sisters Aonung and Rhea by his side, they find him attempting to take the tracker out of Payakan's fin. The group steps in to assist, but it's too late. The whaler ship has already received their location from the tracker and is on its way to capture them. The village members promptly collect their weapons and mount their eyeless to join the battle when the siblings use their communicators to warn Jake of the impending threat. To divert attention from Payakan, the kids are able to take the tracker off and swim away with it, but precisely what Quaritch desired, and he dispatches his soldiers to pursue them. Underwater, Loake, Tuck, and Rhea are pursued for a fair amount of time until being caught with a net by humans when the children must pause for breath. When Spider watches his brothers being taken in, while the children are bound to the railing, he tries to battle to save them but is swiftly defeated by the humans and forced back inside. Jake and the other villagers arrive at that point, but they immediately decide against assaulting when they see that their children are being held prisoner. As Jake gets closer, Payakan suddenly appears and flies over the spacecraft to land on top of it, killing it with its fins and tail. Quaritch snatches Loake's communicator and tells Jake to come alone if he doesn't want to lose his kids. Additionally, it continues to drive the troops away while being unaffected by the gunfire. The whalers turn back their boats to attack Payakan with harpoons, forcing it to return to the ocean, and the humans are now diverted from the children. Jake then calls for the others to assault the ship. The Nausicaa and humans engage in a furious conflict, and the Nausicaa swiftly get the upper hand since their species can fly faster and hide underwater. When a boat collides with the main ship and starts to catch fire, Spider uses his position inside to turn on the fans and spread the fire throughout the ship while also starting to destroy the control panel. Kiri uses her bond with the sea life to send the plants after the submarines. Eventually, the ship stops and starts to fill with water. Jake and Quaritch are now engaged in a one-on-one battle. They begin by using their weapons, but after running out of ammunition, Jake sends his Ikran to attack Quaritch's, causing both of them to tumble into the water. The whalers throw a harpoon with a steel rope at its end in an attempt to capture Payakan, but Payakan makes another jump and uses the same line to capsize the boat. Neteyam eventually succeeds in boarding the main ship to release his people. Although Loake wants to save Spider, Neteyam must stay to assist his brother as the females dive into the ocean. As soon as Kiri is taken captive by one of the soldiers, who then ties her up aboard the ship, Tuck persuades Rhea to go back and save her. But as soon as they get to the ship, Quaritch appears, throws Rhea into the ocean, and kidnaps Tuck as well. The people are. That makes it simple for Loake and Neteyam to sneak up on them and assault them while they are already abandoning the sinking ship. Spider enters the battle as soon as he spots them and rejoins his siblings, but they soon have to flee when more troops arrive and start firing at them. Neteyam orders his siblings to dive into the ocean while he uses his own weapon to keep back the troops, allowing Rhea to arrive on her Ilu and offer a ride. While they wait for Neteyam to join them, it is discovered that their brother was shot when he eventually dove into the sea as well. To give Jake and Neytiri a chance to examine him, the gang transports him right away to a tiny island. Regrettably, Neteyam passes away in their arms. Quaritch then makes contact with Jake to inform him. He begs him to go alone once again and mentions that he has his girls. Neytiri is dispatched on her Banshee as backup by Jake, who then makes his way back to the ship while being guided by Spider. Although Loake is meant to stay behind, he once more defies orders and returns aboard the ship. Although the troops are waiting for Jake at the front, Spider teaches Jake how to enter the area covertly, allowing him the opportunity to hurl a grenade and ignite a fire. Following the explosion, there is chaos and uncertainty, which Jake and Neytiri take advantage of by jumping in and starting to murder troops everywhere. Due to her anguish, Neytiri is in berserker mode, which makes Spider afraid to approach her because he appears to be the adversary. Tuck is eventually freed by Jake, but Kiri is missing. It turns out that Quaritch saw Jake coming and had taken Kiri as a prisoner. As a result, Jake drops his weapons and Spider emerges from concealment to plead for Kiri's life. Neytiri then intervenes and takes Spider prisoner as well. Neytiri wants to exchange one kid for another, and when Quaritch first claims he doesn't care, she injures Spider to show her sincerity. This convinces Quaritch to release Kiri in order to rescue his son. All of Neytiri's kids go to the sea to flee right away, but Jake resolves to stay and battle Quaritch since else he'll come back with reinforcements. Despite the men engage in a bloody hand-to-hand fight, and as the ship sinks, it turns around and entraps Jake, Quaritch, Neytiri, and Tuck. Spider and Kiri are able to escape. Then the trio splits off to cover more area when Loake arrives seeking for his family. In order to discover Neytiri and Tuck, Kiri utilizes her connection to the water animals as guides. They are being escorted out of the ship by the same monsters. Jake ultimately gets Quaritch in a risky position and kills him, allowing the body to fall into the water. He is out of air after struggling for such a long time underwater, but Loake finds him and leads him to a place with space to breathe while reminding him of Rhea's breathing exercises. Quaritch is not dead, rather, he is only unconscious when Spider, who is also looking, finds him. Following much internal conflict, Spider decides. He pulls his father back to the surface since he can't leave him there. When Payakan returns to save Jake and Loake, Jake is finally able to express his